In this video, I want to talk about contrast, balance, movement, and storytelling. I want to show you photos by Ed Kashi. You could go to edkashi.com and see more photos. I'm going to show you a bunch of his photos and critique them so you understand how to make your designs better. This photo has nice contrast and balance. The light fabric on these women against the darker background, and then the dark clothes on the light background. The balance is shown from the people here and the people here. We have the rule of thirds to show balance. This is also an interesting shot because it has 1-point perspective with angles. So the background, the scenery, has angles. There's movement in the scenery, but the people are vertical and they're static in the design. This photograph is interesting. We have something of interest down here where the people are carrying a casket. We have an interesting looking building here. We have some people of interest looking at what's going on here. We have the town here. We get a sense of how they live. And then we have some cars that are driving here, and we can see the cars and get a sense for what year this might have been taken. There's lots of contrast in this design from blacks to whites to be able to see things well. In the distance, it's kind of gray because there's a haze probably over the city that far away. Might be hot out. We have angles in this design from the roads. We also have angles from the town. We have contrast here with the dark area, and then there's light area on the building around that area. This is interesting, that black and white pattern against the gray here. So that's contrast. We also have these dark windows here against that gray area, giving contrast. We have something of interest here and something of interest here, giving balance with the rule of thirds. There's no dynamic angles in this design. It's very static. This woman and the child make this design interesting because of who they are and what their age is. She's sitting and she's standing on this windowsill, holding on to the bar. She's daring. She's young. So there's a story being told here. We've got good contrast with the light on the left side of this person, darkness on the right side of the person. There's some light up here and dark back here to give contrast too. There's dark on his shirt here. There's light back here to give contrast. There's a dark symbol back here against a kind of grayish background. When we first view this photo, our eyes probably are attracted right here because that's the most contrast in the design. But then our eyes look around the scenery and then we see this symbol. There's a story here. I'm not sure what it is, but this man is smoking a cigarette, and if we knew what this symbol represented, we might connect these two objects with this person. This gentleman here is really emphasized in this design. Our eyes are drawn right to him because there's lots of contrast with him wearing all black with white stripes on his suit with a white background behind him. Then we see what's going on back here. We have the rule of thirds with balance in the design. This light object here against the gray and the dark here, and the dark on his pants and the dark here, which gives contrast, so it shows that object off. We have a story of these men carrying a casket with a representative of their religion. When we look at this photo, we're drawn to this person because of the dark costume against the lighter background. And then we follow the person's eyes to where they are looking, and we see this person holding a gun. And that person is kind of hidden within the background of the wall there. There's a story here. Kids like to play make-believe. We also have a person of interest back here to show balance in the design. That white shirt against a dark background is good contrast. This person might be running away from what's going on here. We also have angles in the background from the scenery, and this person is at an angle, giving some movement to the design. The camera is looking down on the scene. It's a perspective that we're not used to seeing in a photograph, which is interesting to us. we're seeing what's inside the suitcase and what's on top of the dresser. This man here has lots of light tones against the dark background. That's good contrast. The woman here's light toned skin against that dark background. That's good contrast. The child here is not that good contrast. She kind of blends in with what's going on here. That's what also makes this photograph interesting, because we're not looking for a child in a suitcase. What we're doing when we look at this photo first is we're looking at this guy and this girl and what they're doing. Then we look over here and say, oh, wait a second, what's this? So we have balance in this design with a rule of thirds. This design would be more successful if we had something else over here too. Maybe if there was a photo or a painting on the wall, that would work as well. Something of interest. So in this photo, what makes it really interesting are these chains that are hanging from this entrance where this photographer is kneeling down to take this photo. If these chains weren't there, this photo would be very empty up here in that space. The image would feel a little unbalanced. As a photographer, you have to realize that you can manipulate spaces. If these chains aren't there when you take that photo, you could add those chains in when you take the photo. Or if you have a friend helping you, they can hold the chains while you take that photo to get that better picture. This is what we call staging the shot. We see a great shot here. Now, the dark silhouettes against that light background making good contrast so that we can see those people walking on top of the wall. The dilapidated look of the fallen wall is really interesting to look at as well. I hope looking at these photos and listening to how I described contrast, balance, movement, and storytelling helps you with graphic design and how to take better photos.